Welcome to the Lawndale Guitar Show, the show that's all about guitars and the people that play them. And my very special guest for this episode is Mr. Scott Oberg, a.k.a. Uncle Scott.
Hey, Jim, glad to be here.
Great for coming in. Appreciate it. And we're going to talk some old times because I've known you forever. And
Crazy.
we're going to talk some of the gear that you brought in and some of the guitars you brought in and do a little bit of playing as well. And I see we almost look like we're holding the same guitar. A couple of changes, a couple of differences in there.
How do you like that humbucker?
It's nice for some of the lead work, but I could take it or leave it, to be honest.
That's the guy you told me about. So
Yes,
if you ever need a guitar, go to this guy.
Yes, not cheap, but makes them handmade out in Colorado. Now this is a new guitar for you, right?
This is a Squire I bought a couple of weeks ago, and I love it. It's great.
Now, is there any changes, any modifications, or is it as you bought it?
No, I took the name off. Don't tell anybody that. But what I liked about it was the dual pivot here instead of the 6 screws like that. I thought that the dual pivot would have, when you think about it, less contact points on your tremolo. It's just simpler. And simpler the better in some ways. So.
Now, have you done any adjustments on the tremolo as far as springs? Is it set with 3 or all 5?
It is set with 3, and actually, I bought it from the company I bought it from. Goes ahead and opens the box and sets it all up for you, and then sends it to you. So that's great. I haven't hardly had to touch it since.
And you preferred to get maple neck on the neck?
Yes, I've never had a maple neck before, and I do have one on my bass that I bought. That's very nice. So I like it.
And it's got sort of a pearlescent finish. It shows
Yes,
in
it
the
does.
light.
So.
Yeah, very attractive. Very nice. Any future plans to do anything else to it, or just keep it as is?
We'll see about that.
As time goes on?
I think I'll get better tuners.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. People always would put showers on even stock Strats. They would always change out.
Yeah, that's what I did with my 73 that I had. So.
Yeah, now tell us about that guitar. That wasn't something you bought new, though? Was it
No,
72
I bought it
or
used.
73?
It was a 72, and I bought it in about 75, and it was used, and that's all the money I had. About $350 up in Guitar Center in Seattle.
Oh, okay.
And then I had some work done on it. I had showers put on there. I had medium jumbo frets put in it because I didn't like the stock Fender frets.
And that was a rosewood neck. I remember that guitar.
Yes, very nice neck. And finally, a little while ago, I decided that it was time to sell it, and that I'd had it long enough, and time for something else,
I don't know how you parted with it, but it's your it's your guitar to part with.
So I sold it to a luthier that I met, and he was very happy with it. So it worked out both ways.
Not really a pre-CBS, which is worth a mint, but still, anything 70s is very collectible these days.
So I figured it was a 72. It had attributes from 71 and 72, and it had a what do they call that? Tilt, the trio tilt, micro tilt neck. Which was only 3 screws in the back, which I've never felt comfortable with having only 3 screws. I always wanted 4 like this.
Yeah, all my old 70s are with just the 3 screws on the back, and on one of them it did have a little bit of damage and it changed the tilt there a little bit.
I understand that some of the 70s kind of lost their value a little quicker than some of them.
Not a 50s or early 60s Strat.
CBS, yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you about some of your old influences, and how old were you when you first really started playing guitar?
When I first started really playing, I was about 17, 18, something like that. But my dad had a little Spanish guitar with 3 strings on it or whatever, and I used to wham away on that.
So it started out on acoustic.
Right. Yeah. Right. And then I bought my first electric at a pawn shop. It was like a 335 copy, and beautiful little guitar, semi-hollow. And then I bought a Fender Duosonic, which I just loved. It was a great guitar. It was a smaller neck, and a 22.5, 22.7 inch neck, and very happy with that. And then I traded that in for the 72 that I bought, this Stratocaster that I bought.
What would have been your first amp that you were trying to run this stuff through that you had?
I had a beat up old Vox Cambridge Reverb, and it worked out fine for me.
Now, I remember that amp. I didn't know that was your first amp.
Oh.
That had a great sound.
Yes.
What was the wattage on that thing?
Can't remember.
Not huge, but it powered through.
I don't remember. Maybe 35, something like that. I can't remember.
And it had the stock Vox speakers in it?
Yes.
Okay.
And I finally, it either burned out or I got rid of it somehow when I moved up to Seattle. And then I got a Fender Bassman. It's like a mid-70s Fender Bassman amp. And it's just beautiful. It's 50 watts and I love it. I just run it top end and it just screams bloody murder. I just love it.
Change out any speakers on it? Or?
I had to. They would kind of fail. They failed more than once. So yeah, right now it doesn't have any speakers. And then I have a couple of Celestion 12-inch speakers that I bought, and I made enclosures for them, and they were long throw special enclosures I made. And when I played with you at the Crater.
Oh, the old park.
La Mirada Park, and then I brought those there that day, I remember.
Yeah, it sort of flared your sound out. It really gave a fullness to the air. Yeah, that was great. Now, I know that you've always had some great old classic pedals. What were the first pedals that you were really acquiring? Which, by the way, I brought one out of the mothballs that you had given your cousin many years ago.
I was trying to think of what company
was this your first distortion pedal?
That's pretty close. I went to a place up in Whittier, and I tried several of them, and this one definitely had the best sound.
An antique now.
So, yeah, like me. But I can't remember what was the company
name.
Well,
it said Super Fuzz on that blue plate,
okay.
But by the time your cousin had given me that thing, that was missing. And it did work for a while, although it had some problems.
Yeah. Beautiful sound.
You had others besides this, of course.
Yeah, I had a Dodd distortion and some other ones. And then somebody gave me an original fuzz face, whatever. I don't remember if it was Dallas Arbiter or what, but it was back in the late 60s or early 70s, but it did not work, and so I wound up giving it away to somebody. And so then, we have a camera down here or anything?
Oh, that's okay. We can zoom in on it. Now, so you had that first Dodd and then the Dallas Arbiter, whether or not it was, but a fuzz face. Right. What other effects did you incorporate early?
I did have a Crybaby wah-wah pedal.
One of the Thomas Organ ones, the all black?
No, it was later than that. It was black, but I don't think it was Thomas Organ. I don't remember who made that. But, and then I wound up with this one. It was a deal I couldn't pass up. So Vox 846, V846.
Right.
And I love it.
So not a reproduction as what I have here, even though they look almost identical. This is original.
This is original, and I had it tuned up and fixed. There was some original, there was some part that was bad in it, a capacitor, I guess. And my buddy replaced it with an original new old stock. Yeah. And works fine. So
it kept the original tones and sweep and everything else.
Yeah, I've changed the sweep a little bit, and I also removed the feet down here for a greater sweep on that.
Right. And a lot of us have done that. We'll peel them off. Get a wider wah.
So I'd like to check that out and look at that before I leave.
Now, of course, the classic effect pedal that you have and have an old original is the Univibe pedal. And you want to talk a little bit about that? Sure.
I was just enraptured by Jimi Hendrix's sound at Woodstock with his Univibe. I just couldn't believe it. It just blew my mind, you know. And so I wanted to have one. So in about 74 or so, I looked up in the penny saver and somebody was selling one, $90. So we went out, and the guy was a pro bass player, and went out and he had this Univibe, and it's like, okay, $90, sounds good to me. So
now they're 900 plus.
Yeah, plus
for the same pedal. And it was in good working order when you picked it up?
It was in good working order, and finally, just years later, it finally failed. So then I had it repaired by the same guy who did my wah-wah pedal.
Now, to some younger guitar players, they're more familiar with other effects that are similar in the waves changing on the signal, flangers, phase shifters, chorus effects, all these sorts of things. But the real precursor, other than a studio effect, was the Univibe, right?
Yes, although they had earlier models than this one, which I'm not familiar with.
And it has its own potentiometer pedal, so you can affect the speed of the wave, right?
That's right, yeah. You can also affect the sweep. You can have a very short sweep or a very long sweep, and you have a volume control, and you also have a chorus, which is what everybody uses, and you can also have a lesser effect, a vibrato effect. on there.
Now they've recreated what they're calling univibes.
Yeah.
They're not exactly the same. They're close. Have you played through any of those? Or
I've not, but
them?
I've heard some, and I'm pretty impressed with them.
Some are better than others, I would say.
Yes, I would say that, yeah.
Still having the old classic original, it's a great thing to have, all the authentic original sounding effects.
Who's that guy? Cousin Dennis was asking which is the best Univibe to buy, and I said, well, it's the original.
Yes.
You know, of course. You know, that's an easy one.
Right.
And it just takes up a whole lot of room. And guys nowadays have a pedal board, or they have the array of pedals in front of them, and it just takes up a whole lot of room.
That's true.
It's clunky.
That's true.
In that sense, you know.
And it runs AC, right? You have to juice it and plug it in. Yeah. Now, do you notice any sort of radio interference or picking up extra signal being AC?
Not that I know of. I've never noticed that.
That's good. Yeah, because some early AC units would kind of pull in radio frequencies,
Right,
CB radios,
yeah.
and that sort of thing. Wow, that's fantastic that you're hanging on to this. I don't want to use the term museum quality stuff, but it's almost that in value.
One other negative could be that the actuator, the way you turn it on or turn it off, is a separate pedal, and that takes up a lot of room also. You know.
So do you perform anywhere? Are you out playing out and about?
I do not. Yeah, nope.
Just
a
home,
hobby.
just a homebody still jamming
That's
and
right.
playing. But you have in the past, and tell us if you would about some of the friends you've jammed with, shows you've done over the many years.
I jammed with you a couple of times probably, and I did a few parties, and we played Pro a couple of times, a new band night, and it worked out real well for us. And I did several parties and free beer or whatever, you know. That's okay with me.
Yeah, the good old days.
Yeah.
Now,
sure.
how many bands would you say you've played in over your many years of playing?
Oh, 2 or 3 probably. And I always felt best and most comfortable in a 3-piece where I was playing guitar and there was a bass and a drums. And if we had a singer, then he could jump in or jump out whenever he wanted to. And that worked out well. But I had a top 40 band with another guitar player, and although it worked out well, it just wasn't my scene. I didn't feel comfortable.
Right. Now, I know this, but talk about why you are so influenced, because I've always thought you were one of the first persons I knew to play the music of Jimi Hendrix or Robin Trower, which now are regarded as sort of the godfathers of a certain sound and feel of the guitar. But what drew you to them?
Well, I guess it was Axis Bold as Love, which was Jimmy's second album, and some of that music, it was like you're dreaming. It was just beautiful music. I'd never heard anything so beautiful. And then got in his first album, and just these titanic sounds you didn't even know could come out of a guitar.
So you got into the second album and then went backwards to explore the first.
Right.
Right.
And then with Robin Trower, I just liked I missed Jimmy so much when he died. And so I did like Trower because he had that sound, he had the moves down. Yes, and that's definitely a very heavy influence on Trower's early solo stuff.
The tone was there.
Certainly, and with the Univibe tone and his beautiful Marshall sound.
Now, I knew that you also had played some of the other classic guitar players of the 70s. There was some Ritchie Blackmore and Tony Iommi's riffs. Were they somewhat of an influence to you?
Certainly. I saw Blackmore up in at the San Bernardino Swing, which is long gone now. But it was a great show, and it came out, I saw him at about the time that their double live Japan album came out, Deep Purple. And it sounded just like it did on the record, you know. And throwing his guitar way up in the air, and
doing all the stunts in the show.
Busted part of the neck off his guitar, and it was a good show.
Now, are there any other guitar players that you really like to listen to or to somewhat emulate?
Well, I listen to a lot of jazz, and you hear Django Reinhardt. It's just one of my favorites, and I just love that kind of music. You know. And there are a great many guitarists that I appreciate and love. You know.
Right. So your horizon is wide as far as who
I'd say
would be
so.
an influence or who you like to listen to.
That's true, but I was going to say that there's a large space between the music that your appreciation, that the music you love, and the music you can hear in your head, and trying to work it out on the guitar. There's a really wide distance. And I'm just not that good a guitar player to do that most of the time.
Be
You know,
Django.
I'm very lucky,
Yeah.
you know, if I can get some of it down.
Right. I think there's very few guitar players that really try to match Django all the time. That was
Charlie
on
Christian
fire.
was another
Yeah.
early influence on me because it's like he created a lot of the sounds that he got.
True.
He was like the first
one of the
one
first,
to do it.
if not the first, amplified guitarist.
Yeah, I think
Right.
so. Yeah.
That's great. Well, I'd say let's give a little listen, and then maybe we'll talk about a couple of the other instruments you brought in. But why don't we do a little something here
Sure
so we can
thing.
hear the authentic original sound of a classic unibody.
Let's try that again.
Something, eh?
Let me see it here. So maybe that "Hey Baby" riff?
Sure, sure. 2, 3, 4. That's got the authentic sound. You know, I remember either reading or hearing that Jimmy described it sort of like, what was it, jelly bread? Because it had that springy sound almost, you know. Very nice. So you never plan to sell these things, I hope.
No, not right now.
Might be your son's inheritance, right?
Hope so.
Great. You want to try something in another key and just
Sure.
let you go to town on it? How about the old Band of Gypsies riff, Who Knows? In D?
D. That's a tough one.
Yeah, take that for an hour.
It's like 30 years ago, man.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of fun to play those old riffs. And so much of it involves improvisation. So you're taking sort of the spirit of Hendrix, incorporating your own sort of touch on it, right?
Hope so.
I think so.
Improvisation is what it's all about.
Now, briefly before we try something, you want to show a couple of these other instruments that you brought in?
So this is a Squier vintage modified P-bass, and I've done a little cosmetic changes, the black knobs, and I want to get the tuning machines changed, and I put the plate on the back, and real beautiful. I had a ashtray down here cover, and then I had a pickup cover, but I just couldn't, you can't mute the strings properly, so I took them back off. And it's, like I was saying, it's the first, what is this wood?
You mean the maple?
Yes, maple, yeah.
Okay.
This is the first maple neck I've had. And it's good, maple fretboard. And I love playing bass, and don't ever use a pick. And I like the flat wound strings, and I like using fingers, no pick. There's too sharp an attack, anyway, for me.
Now, are you jamming with some friends and just playing bass?
Not yet.
So you're in the learning stage?
I have recording equipment at home, and I have a DAW at home, and also a very nice microphone, and I can record.
So you could do your own tracking and play your bass parts, and then play your solos on top.
I'm just not a drummer, so I have to use canned drumming, canned percussion, and then put my guitars on there. It works out real well.
Great, great.
And beautiful guitar. I couldn't be happier with it. It's just beautiful. And for the price, you can't beat it. And then, speaking of price, this Samick right here that my son gave me, and beautiful little guitar. It's a full size neck, just like my Strat, and got a great sound. But I would say that the Strat clone here has more bite in the sound than these. These could be ceramic. I don't know what they are. But beautiful little guitar.
All black finish on the hardware.
It's all black, and I did make cosmetic changes. I put black pup covers on here and black knobs and cosmetic changes. And you want to go ahead and improve a guitar that you have, but make sure that you start off with a cheap one, because then you can do all you want to, but don't have an expensive Strat like I had, and then make all your changes, because nobody's going to want to buy it. They want to buy a vintage guitar.
Value.
Stock vintage,
Now that I see has all the springs on the back as you put it back there.
Yeah, I like a little heavier on that.
All right, well, going on to play something else here. Let's see, how about our old standby machine gun sort of E-riff. You can do all the full bore Jimmy effects on that one. Sort of the bass line for you. Okay? Seeing echoes of Jimmy all over. That was great. Well, Scott, I'm going to end here in just a minute, so you want to take it out on one of your other old favorite riffs, back to A? Before we do, I want to thank you for coming in and showing the gear. It's a pleasure to see you again, and it's great to see the relics that are still making sounds.
Yeah, me too. I'm one of those relics too. So.